So, what do we have here? A 2000 Nissan Frontier. He brought it here because the brake pedal was kind of spongy and the brake warning light on the dash was on. The brake master cylinder was nearly empty. I put fluid in it, now the light's off. But looking for a leak, and it's rusted at the brake hose there. But the rest of this system is in poor shape. These brake lines are in poor shape across the rear diff. And of course, I don't know if we're going to be able to salvage the wheel cylinders. They're pretty rusty. Also, I can smell fuel vapor. So I think that fuel tank might be leaking at the back. Diff plug's leaking a little bit here, but that's minor. So brake hose is a week away. Wheel cylinders are a week away. Hopefully we don't need brake shoes and hardware in there. I should pull the drums off and have a look, considering we're going to order parts. And I'm hoping I can repair this line, cut it and flare it, and add a section of line, because I don't want to change the rest of the line. The line is all coated, but it runs on top of the frame up here. That's me spraying penetrating fluid on the parking brake mechanism, but I see the park brake cable is busted anyway, so that's not brake fluid. So these are the brake, this is the brake line here. And you can see that's not going to get replaced anytime soon. So I'm hoping I can pull that line down through the wheel well there and add a piece of line, because changing the entire line is worth more than this truck, unfortunately. Let's pull the wheels off and have a look at the rear brake shoes and make sure we don't need any brake shoes and hardware while we're in there. So Murphy's Law, because I took the time to take the drums off and inspect the rear brakes, they're absolutely fine. If I had left it until I got the wheel cylinders a week from now, I'm sure I would have needed brake shoes when I got it apart. So there's lots of brake shoe. Now, the wheel cylinders are probably okay, but by the time I get the bleeder screws loose, they're like $15 a piece, so what's the point? So we're going to start working on this Frontier. I've got new brake hose and new wheel cylinders for the back. When I went to bring it in, the battery was a little bit weak, so I've got a battery charger on it while I'm working on it. Now, I like to depress the brake pedal slightly with a pushing tool. I'm going to have to buy one of those brake pedal depressors. But I just used a pry bar against the seat. That holds the master cylinder pistons past the compensating port, so that the brake fluid won't siphon out of the master cylinder. It stops a lot of the continuous dripping, and you don't want to, I don't like to let the master cylinder siphon right out. It is full. I'm going to leave the cap on it. I'm going to pull the back wheels, back drums, and cut everything out. So here's a tool I made years ago for changing wheel cylinders on Chryslers. It allows you to separate the shoes without having to take all the hardware apart, and leave the brake shoes and everything intact. It saves you having to disassemble all of the brakes. So you just basically separate the two shoes with this. It's like a turnbuckle. It would be better if it had a knob on the end of it, but so that one's out. And then we just, I've taken the screw bolts out of the back. Both of them broke. Should have had a screwdriver here, right? We got to spread it a little bit more. I've cut the steel line on the back. Stuck on that piston. So both of the bolts broke off. I used these snap-on reverse extractors to get them out. So we put the new wheel cylinder in with new retaining bolts. Like I said, that little tool holds that shoes spread apart, avoids having to take all the hardware apart. Let's get the wheel cylinder installed. So once the wheel cylinder is installed with new retainers, we just back this off. And take the tool out. It's got two little notches in it. Oh, I realized I notched it, so I could have put it right in the center. I forgot. Well, that's okay. It works good on this one. Now we finish. That's... yeah, that's good. Now we finish making up the brake lines. Well, there's the brake hose off. I had to heat this nut on this bracket here. This bracket's pretty flimsy, but it's still there. Same thing with the one up top. The reason why I'm changing the brake hose is because this factory crimp is no longer crimped. It was rusted right here where the line goes in. The rest of the line is coated, as you can see. You can see I've got it cut off with a pair of side cutters, and it's not dripping because I got the brake pedal depressed slightly, which is nice to avoid all that. I'm gonna put new brake lines on here. So I've got this Titan brake flaring tool in here. I strip back, put in operation 1. It's a double flare I'm using. And I put the nut on. Don't forget to put the nut on. I'm putting a standard 3/8 double flare union in, but the rest of the lines are metric double flare. Did I say 3/8? I meant 3/16. A little bit for tighten this right down until it bottoms. And then take it off. Flip it around. The benefit of this tool is it works in tight places. Operation 2 goes all the way in. And now we take the tool off. Yeah, that looks like a pretty nice double flare. Okay, so now we're going to make up a short piece of line to go from here into the brake hose. Make up the other lines as well. So I'm using the Master Cool hydraulic flaring tool to make double flares for the lines. The long line on the left side is 48 inches nut to nut. That's step one. Gotta be careful not to put it off to the center. Here's step two. That's a little bit wide. That should be okay. Yeah. Don't forget to put the nut on. And as I said, these are metric nuts. I used another gauge block to set the depth. I've already deburred the lines. Step one. It doesn't look like it crimped. Huh. It didn't look like it. I guess it did. Doesn't look very bubble-like. No, that's not right. Something's wrong here. So I realized what I had done. I needed to turn this hydraulic ram out a little further because it only has about a ½ inch of stroke hydraulically. So it wasn't bottoming the die, the first step for the double flare. So I had to redo those two crimps, or those two flares. That's much better. I thought the first one looked a little wide. It's because the first stage didn't get done correctly. Let's see, how does that look? Looks pretty good to me. 48 inches, fitting to fitting. So I use a pressure bleeder ball and adapters from I can't remember what company, Master Cool adapters. I got 25 psi pressure in the bladder, underneath the bladder here, and brake fluid on top. And I like to bleed this way, well, one, because I'm a one-man show and I don't have a helper, and also because it's not pushing the brake pedal into an area where it hasn't been before. So we put a piece of hose on this thing, straining into a bucket. It's a good way to change out the brake fluid too. Let it run so we get nice clean brake fluid coming out. That's pretty clean now. Repeat the same thing at the other side. Bleed the longest one from the master cylinder first, which is the left side in this case because the brake lines come down the right side of the vehicle. Put the little rubber booty on there. And repeat the test. Let's have a look at the other brake line on the right side was 16 inches. And there's my repair up there. The union made a little loop in it so that it didn't have to, you can stretch it or make it shorter. Secured the lines with tie wraps because the steel clips are rusted out. So that's, I'm gonna bleed the other side now. So it's pressure bled, and I've applied the brake several times. The pedal feels normal, nice and good, nice and stiff, nice and good. And checked for leaks. No leaks on any of the fittings. So we're gonna ship this thing. I think we saved it for another year or so because it's not long for this world, actually, this truck. Thanks for watching.